My name is Ethan. I'm 28 years old, and I live in a small, sleepy town in Florida. It's the kind of place where life seems to move in slow motion, where people know each other by name and nothing ever seems to change. After I lost my job at a local office, a layoff they called it, I found myself struggling to find new work. Eventually, I landed a night shift at a convenience store called Sunny Mart. It's located just outside town, right next to a piece of land that's been left untouched for decades, overgrown, forgotten, and strangely silent even during the day. The job seemed simple. Keep the place clean, restock the shelves, and make sure everything stayed in order between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. At first, I thought it was ideal for someone like me. I tend to keep to myself, and I liked the idea of a quiet night job with no crowds and minimal interaction. But from my second week onward, I began to feel that something wasn't quite right. It started subtly. Items I had arranged neatly during my shift would be found on the floor by morning. Cans knocked over, snacks spilled across the aisles. I assumed it was just the wind sneaking through the old windows, or maybe mice making their rounds. But as the nights passed, the incidents grew stranger. Entire shelves looked like they'd been disturbed. Things would go missing, and then reappear in places I was certain I hadn't left them. Then came the first truly bizarre moment. One night around 3 in the morning, I heard the chime of the front door, the one that always rings when someone walks in. I looked up from the paperback I'd been reading, expecting to see a customer, but no one was there. I got up, checked behind the counter, walked around the store. The door was slightly open. Outside, the street was completely still. The air felt unusually cold. I closed the door and tried to laugh it off. Maybe it hadn't shut properly. Maybe a draft had triggered the sensor. But then it happened again. And again. Always at 3 a.m. sharp. The chime would ring, the door would open, and every time I'd check, the store would be empty. Some nights I started seeing shapes, faint, hazy outlines, moving behind shelves. They never made a sound, and when I moved closer, they'd vanish, as if they were never there to begin with. I mentioned it to Linda, the store's owner. She chuckled and waved me off. "You've been working nights," she said. "Your brain's just playing tricks on you. This place is fine. I've owned it for years." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, not by customers, but by something else entirely. Eventually, I decided to record what was happening. I set up my phone on the counter, facing both the front door and the clock on the wall. When I reviewed the footage, my heart dropped. At precisely 3 a.m., the door opened. No one walked in. But the second hand on the clock stopped ticking. It stood frozen for almost 3 minutes. Then, just like that, it resumed as if nothing had ever happened. Encouraged by what I saw, I started checking more nights. In one video, I clearly saw the image of a woman. Long dark hair, pale clothing, standing motionless beside the ramen shelf. I remembered that night. No one had come in. No one had gone out. I began to feel deeply unsettled, but I couldn't just leave. Bills needed paying, and options were limited. I told myself I could tough it out. A few minutes before 3, a man came in, elderly, slow-moving, with sunken eyes and deep lines on his face. He didn't respond when I greeted him. He just wandered the aisles, barely making a sound, like he was looking for something. Then he walked out. No purchase, no words. When I stepped outside to look after him, he had vanished, not down the road, not into a car. Just gone. I couldn't sleep that day. Something inside me said there was more to this. So I began looking into the land where Sunny Mart was built. After hours of digging through old news archives and the local records, I found a report dated over 20 years ago. It told of a tragic incident. A family of 5 had lost their lives in a violent break-in. The case remained unsolved. The time of the event, around 3 a.m. The address listed in the article matched Sonny Mart's location exactly. I asked around town. Eventually, an older man, once a night security guard, told me that used to be the Baker place. No one wanted to go near it after what happened. That's why Linda got it cheap. That night, I prepared. I set up more cameras around the store, and I carried with me a rosary my mother had given me years ago. At 3 a.m. sharp, the chime rang. I stayed behind the counter, frozen. On the footage, I later saw them. 5 figures walked through the door. The woman with long hair, the old man, 2 children holding hands, and a tall man at the back, his face completely hidden in shadow. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They just stood there in the middle of the store, watching. The lights flickered and suddenly went out. For a moment, everything was black. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, the clock read 3:07. The lights were back. The store was silent, but the rosary in my hand had snapped clean in half. I turned in my resignation the next morning. I left the town within a week. To this day, every time I hear the soft ding of a convenience store chime, a chill runs down my spine. I know what I saw. I know what still happens at that store every night at exactly 3 a.m. And I'm certain they haven't stopped looking.